out the heart of the system, whereas most people with four-wheel drives will have some form of electric operated compressor. Quite often an ARB twin compressor is considered to be the best of the best. I've gone for a engine-driven compressor. Goes by the name or marketed under the name of Endless Air by a company called Karela Enterprises, I think it is, in Melbourne, Victoria, and that's it there. It's basically like a redesigned air conditioning compressor. It draws in clean air from the top of the air intake of the motor, where the baffle used to be on the Chevy. Now it's got a stainless steel braided hose coming through AN fittings, AN8 fittings, down into the intake of the compressor there, and then the outlet comes up through a non-return valve right there. Then an elbow into a T-junction. On the end of that T-junction is a pressure cut-off valve. It cuts off at about, it says it's 120 psi, but I think it really cuts off around 100 psi, which is fine by me. That's all I need. Then another AN fitting with more braided stainless steel hose, goes all the way down for about 2.5 meters to a point where it's underneath the vehicle, up around under there. Whether that's going to come up or not, I can't see. Under there's also a T-junction, which sends air back to the front of the bull bar to an outlet for inflating tyres and so on. And then the rest of the hose continues down the back. Under the left-hand wheel arch, I've mounted a regulator and a water trap, which keep any moisture out from beyond that point from the compressor. As you know, compressors will send moisture down the line as well. Not good for all the gear, so that stops that from happening, and the water can drain out. Water condenses and goes down through that little drain and out onto the ground. Coming around to the back, there's a hose that goes across inside there with a couple of valves. One there, a T-junction there that goes up to a gauge that I can see through the back window when I'm mucking around on the air system, and another shut-off valve there, which then leads over to the back right-hand corner of the canopy. If I come around here to the side, then you can see my air tank. It's actually a repurposed 9-kilo gas bottle turned upside down with the valve taken out of the top, and a series of brass fittings fitted in order to get the air out. I've turned it upside down. I didn't want to drill any holes or weld anything onto it, so I turned it upside down so any moisture that might get in there will drain back out again, and it will drain out right down here underneath it, directly through the floor, through a hose, and there's also another valve there where I can let air out. Well, just turn the handle, drain any moisture out there, and then the other hose, the big blue one there, the 1/2-inch blue hose, continues across, and it sends air to these little puppies here. A set of Klein 730 Demon air horns. They're rather loud and they're rather big. They take up the space where the spare tyre would normally have sat, and that lives inside the canopy now, the spare tyre. The other hose that you saw up there, the black one, it goes down to this point here to a another pressure limiting valve where I drop the pressure down to 50 pound, limited through there, and that 50 pound then supplies both that setup there, which is for the airbag inside the air safe hitch in there, which gives a good cushioning ride to the caravan when I'm towing that. And beyond that T-junction there, the top black hose goes down through the chassis to a point here under the wheel arch and continues on right up to the cab, where there's some switches, air switches. But in the meantime, before it gets up there, it goes to a 5/2 air solenoid valve, which controls the raising and lowering of the UHF antenna via the air ram that I've recently fitted. There's air hoses going up through the through that white pipe there, and the black pipe has the UHF antenna cable going through it. Don't know how good that's going to come out, but never mind. And inside the cab, where the air hoses come up through the floor under the carpet, you can't see, I've got a pair of paddle switches there for the airbags as part of the suspension setup, as well as another paddle switch over here next to the driving position with a gauge, and that's where I can control the amount of air in the air safe hitch for the caravan, and I can monitor the amount of air in that bag. Usually run about 20 to 25 psi in there. If I turn this these two switches on here, this one turns on a lot of additional gauges and information in the back of the truck through that four-way switch block there. And one of the things that it turns on is this, if I can get down there, this airbag man gauge that tells me what air pressure I've got in the airbags on the actual suspension. The top is the left one, so it's down a bit at the moment. I'll just give it a bit of air with my other hand here, and give the other one a bit too. And there we go up to 9 psi on both bags, just by operating these paddle switches under there, right under the driving position, or under the steering wheel position. So in a nutshell, that's what happens. The switch directly in front of the one I just turned on before is this one here, and that's the one that turns the UHF on. You'll see the UHF up in the corner here. Turn that switch on and it turns the radio on, and it also just put the antenna up for me. Where is that? There it is. Now if I turn that off again, I'll try and hold that there. This is going to be interesting. Try and hold that there while I turn the switch off. And the antenna goes down when the radio goes off. So that in a nutshell is my air system, and yeah, works good, except for there's a lot of leaks in it at different times. At the moment I think I've solved all the leaks, but it's an ongoing process, but at the moment yeah, it's working well. Oh, the other thing that I can do is I have a gauge here called a CTS3 made by a company called Edge in the States. If you see on the top right hand corner of that gauge, you'll see 100 psi. That tells me the pressure inside that system as measured by a pressure sensor over on the passenger side near where the braided stainless steel hose finishes at the T-junction and comes into the rest of the system. as far as my ability to pump up tyres and so on, I got sick and tired of all the useless hoses that the likes of ARB or TJM or the other companies supply. They always seem to split. So I went to a truck supply place. I bought a pair of what is commonly called Susie coils that are used between a prime mover and its trailer, or between various trailers on B-doubles and road trains. The fittings, as you can see in my hand here, were too big for the rest of the stuff I had, so I just tapped a hole into the end of that silver stainless steel male fitting, tapped a male thread into it, a female thread into it, and then that enabled me to put in my Ryco fitting to snap into the air outlets. I think I showed you the one on the bull bar. There's also one at the back here on just under the tail lights that I can use. Plug that in there. Nothing happens until I turn the air on. There's a valve over there. Turn that on and I get air supply in there. Let it back out again, and so I've got permanent air there all the time, and never have a problem with air supply. Got the red one and the blue one. If I need to pump up the caravan tyres, I can just join them together. They've both got the same fittings, male fitting on one end, female fitting on the other, with all sorts of other gauges and inflation devices here and so on. ARB inflation device, as well as deflation systems. I've got that one there that I can use to extract the valve out of off the tyre and release air via the other end of it, where there's a valve and a gauge. That's an Iron Man one. That doesn't really matter. I made that up myself out of various bits and pieces that I had in the shed, and that works pretty well as well. And it certainly deflates the tyre a lot quicker than just pressing the valve in. In there, started the hand. So I think that pretty much covers the air system. I can't let you go without giving you a sound of those Klein air horns. They are, as I said, pretty loud. Here we go. Hold your breath. Don't know how good that's going to come out, but yeah, they're bloody loud. Okay, until next time, I'll be doing a video on the electrical system, probably next. See you then.